I am Laura Detweiler, your Recreation and Senior Services Director, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce you today to get things started, the Honorable Mayor of Newport Beach, Miss Diane Dixon.
Well, good morning. The sun is coming out. It's a beautiful day on Balboa Island. It's a beautiful day. It's great to welcome all of you. We thought maybe a handful of people would be here. You are all fantastic to be here. What a great day we're all going to have today to celebrate a great event, and that is 100 years of Balboa Island being part of the city of Newport Beach. Isn't that fantastic? So we have a lot of things to share with you. And I'm going to be turning it over to your council member at Sept in a moment. But before I do that, I want to make sure I recognize everyone who's here. We have Mayor Pro Tem Kevin Muldoon. We have Council Member Keith Curry. We have Council Member Tony Petros. So this is a great day for all of us in Newport Beach. You know, 2016 really is a great year, an amazing year in Newport Beach's history. I was just realizing as I was putting my remarks together this morning, this is the fourth event that I know of that I participated in. The Newport Harbor Yacht Club celebrated its centennial in 2016. The other night I went to the celebration of the Christian Science Church. They started in 1916 as the Methodist Episcopal Church on Balboa Peninsula, their 100 years. And I didn't know if the Newport Beach Chamber of Commerce celebrates 100 years. Is Steve Rosansky here? I don't know. We probably need another event to commemorate that. So 1960 was a major year in the history of California. Does anyone know what the population of Balboa Island was between 1910 and 1920? Obviously the two census years. Does anyone want to take a wild guess? In 1910, it was 445 people. And by 1920, it doubled to 895. And we've been on a roll ever since. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Councilmember Ed Selich, and he will give you a little bit more history of Balboa Island. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. My job today is to give you a little bit of history of Balboa Island, and they gave me 5 minutes to do this. So we have a 5-minute history lesson on Balboa Island. So 100 years ago, William Collins created Balboa Island. I'm sure he never imagined it would be the community it's become today. We can only imagine what it's going to be like in another 100 years, and I'll have more to say about that later. But around 1905, he began dredging the island and had the sand and the silt piled on the low-lying areas until the entire island could be dry. And out of that, Balboa Island emerged. You know, it's too bad he didn't pile up another foot or two, then we wouldn't have to be capping the seawalls today. But what are you going to do? Anyway, the lots began selling for $300 for an inside lot and $600 to $700 for a waterfront lot. Can you imagine that today? By 1916, many lots were abandoned due to lack of improvements, and the only foreseeable way to save the island was for it to be annexed to the city of Newport Beach, and that sets the date for our 2016 centennial. And then in 1918, an ingenious group, all my friends on the BIIA, you know, you're sons of the ingenious folks, you formed the Balboa Island Improvement Association to determine what would be needed to be done on the island and advocate for all the improvements. This was the start of the relationship between the Balboa Island Improvement Association and the city, and we're grateful that that's remained strong for all these years. Now, by the 1920s, things were looking up, and over time, property values began to rise, even through the Great Depression. More homes were built after World War II, and the island slowly began to transition from mostly vacation homes to a place that people lived year-round. Now, there have been a lot of physical changes to the island during the past century. That former sandbar that used to be out here is now widely recognized as being one of the most charming and desirable coastal communities in the state, if not the country. And there's certainly been a change in property values. However, it's the community spirit of Balboa Island that really stands out. And I certainly learned that after I became a council member representing Balboa Island. What once was a place that people walked away from is today a place where people want to be. The island's known for its strong sense of community pride and connection. Generations of family have remained here. Ask a resident where they're from and they'll answer Balboa Island, not Newport Beach. Neighbors Neighbors know their neighbors, no secrets on Balboa Island. The residents and businesses work together to keep this a special place for those that live, work, and visit here. So, what will Balboa Island look like 100 years from now? Interesting speculation. With all the talk of sea level rise, some say it might be underwater. Now, some predictions put the sea level at 4 feet or so above the current levels at high tides. Being on the city council, I've often wondered how Balboa Island would deal with that. Then a few days ago, I saw the solution. Huell Hauser was on PBS talking about Old Sacramento. They actually had the same problem in the 1860s, 150 years ago. Now, the Sacramento River in those days was flooding the downtown, so they raised the levees and streets 1 story by building a retaining wall on both sides of the streets at curb line. So just imagine a retaining wall down Agate Avenue, say 4 feet tall on each side of the street. So then they went and they filled the area between the curb lines with soil. So all the streets and the levee were now above flood level. But the buildings were 8 feet below street level. So what are they going to do about that? Well, the first levels became basements, the second levels became the first level, and an additional level was added to create a new second story. And then some buildings were actually jacked up and a new basement constructed underneath. That still left a problem because you had a gap between the buildings and the raised curb line, so they had to build wooden sidewalks across that void, and it connected the buildings to the new streets. So problem solved. So will the future of Balboa Island be similar to Sacramento? Actually, Miami is already implementing a similar solution. So, will future residents standing where we are standing today be standing 4 feet or more higher in 100 years? I don't know, but it's kind of interesting to speculate. In any event, the next 100 years for Balboa Island are sure to be just as wonderful as the first 100, and it will continue to be one of the premier residential areas in the United States. I'm grateful that I've been able to work with and be part of this community, and I thank the many people that have given their time and talents to support the island and to those that planned this centennial. Finally, I want to thank all of you for giving me the honor to represent Balboa Island for the last 11 and a half years as your councilman. It's been quite a ride, which I've enjoyed. Thanks for the memories. What about my next duty? Next up is Lee Pearl. Lee?
Wow. This is a really great turnout, and it's a special day for my family and the residents and friends of Balboa Island. This project has been pretty exciting for me, and I want to tell you the story of the sculpture and the mural project, because there's a story there, and it's really important to share it with all of you, many of which are donors and are part of this project. I want to have Ralph come up. Can you make room and have Ralph come up? I think most of you know Ralph and Penny Rodheim. And I want to tell you, Ralph's been my partner in this project. So, and you never want to tell Ralph that you want to do something. So 3 years ago, when we were sitting, Ralph and Penny are our neighbors. 3 years ago, we were sitting on our patio, and I mentioned to Ralph that Balboa Island needed some public art. And it kind of festered until the Centennial started. And then the next thing I knew, we were starting a sculpture and mural project, which we're dedicating today. And it's been a really, really enjoyable project for me with many challenges. The first challenge was really interesting because the Centennial Committee, made up of the Merchants Association, the museum, the Little Island Association, and the BIIA, decided that we were going to dedicate a sculpture. And there was Lee Pearl and friends that really needed to make that project happen. So my friend Terry Jansen, where's Terry? Terry Jansen and I we had to make a deposit to be able to make the project happen. So your first two donors, Terry and I, are the first two donors. And we proceeded to fund this project with all of you that have been part of the project. And it makes it very extra special for me. I want to introduce Miriam Baker, the artist, Rhonda Jones, and Rhonda, there's stories with all of this. Rhonda broke her arm during the installation of the sculpture, and so she has given her left arm for our project.
Dedicated.
She is really dedicated. Fortunately, she's right-handed, so everything is good. I also want to, talk a little bit about the mural project, because Ralph brought Gary Miltimore. Where's Gary? Gary and his lovely family, the artist that did the mural, to a meeting. And I have to tell you, the mural started really small. It was only supposed to be the little square area that's part of the wall. And Ralph doesn't do anything small. And you can see the mural project has grown to what it is today. And today was the day that John Wayne went up. So nobody's seen John Wayne up on the wall except for us as we walk by the project. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is the sponsors, the donors. We didn't go to businesses to get donations. We really focused on the families of Balboa Island. And you guys, the donors that are here today, really came through and made me proud. Excuse me. Could you raise your hands if you're a donor family as part of this project? And each of the donors has a story, and they're amazing. Is Tim here? Tim and Penny, are you here? Well, the Batemans were donors on the project, and his grandmother built the house that next to the house that they now live in. So there's been multi-generations of his family, and he met his wife on the island. I mean, there's so many great stories that are part of the donors that have dedicated to this. And I remember when Matt, raise your hand, Matt called me, and when we talked about the mural, Matt said, I want to contribute to the mural. And I said, you can't. Remember our conversation? I said, go back to your family and talk about it and make sure that your family really wants to be part of this. And I think I said, call me the next day. And you've called me the next day, and you're now part of the mural project. And Matt's been here since he was 4 years old and has lots of family connections to the island. So finally, the Dorkin family. I think they're represented here today. Can you raise your hand? There's a bunch of them here. Okay, our models for the sculpture have some significance to this project, but most people won't really appreciate that they were members of our Balboa Island community for many, many, many years. And we really appreciate all of the families and people that are part of Balboa Island. So thank you to the family for allowing your parents or grandparents or whatever the relationship is to be part of this project. And my final thanks to the City Council and Arts Commission. Many of the council members are here that helped us make this project happen. And the Arts Commission chair, we have our Arts Commission chair here, and it's really important, the connection between Balboa Island and the city. So we really appreciate making this project happen. That's Lynn Selich. She's our arts commissioner. The residents and visitors, thank you. I've been working on this, coming over and visiting Gary. You cannot believe the selfies that are now taking place at the mural. Dave Webb and the Public Works Department. You know, the city team has been integral to this project. They painted our curb the other day. They've done the installation. I borrowed a bench for like 2 months and used it as the model. And the Public Works staff has been great. So I wanna definitely recognize our Public Works staff. When I went to the sculpture at 7:30 this morning, they were sweeping and cleaning up that area. It was great. So with that, I just have to say it's really a special day for me. My daughter and son-in-law, Marie and Brian, are here today, and they're part of our family. And my son will be here later. And I just can't say enough to thank all of you for being part of this project and how rewarding it is.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, and when you walk by the sculpture, be sure to find the hidden Mickey in this. I mean, in the mural. Find the hidden Mickey. Thank you so much.
Where's Laura? Laura Detweiler. Anyway, are we moving over here to do the dedication with the plaque? Where's Laura?
I'm right here, Mayor.
Oh, hi.
I'm trying to get
Laura, I want to thank Laura and the Recreation and Senior Services Department, and Lee thank Dave Webb, if Dave Webb is here, and members of public. Is Dave here?
He is.
Raise your, hi Dave, thank you. Thank you.
One more thing.
Sure.
Two more things. I forgot to introduce my wife Sue, who has been part of this project. Through all of this. And the fact, hey Dave, come forward. You have a city employee that took time out of his weekend to come. He didn't have to come. And I really appreciate all that your folks have done. We really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
And again, thank you, Dave, and thank you, Laura Detweiler. We have many of Laura's staff here of Recreation and Senior Services. We have a great public facility here, too, that gets a lot of good use for the community. All right, so Laura.
We're going to move right next door here. We're going to do the plaque.
All right, so should we ask everyone to move?
Get ready. Hey, guys.
I want to thank Miriam Baker and Rhonda Jones, who physically gave her left arm to this project. That's right. So thank you, and thank you all for being here. Thank you to Lee Pearl and the Balboa Island Improvement Association. Thank you to all, and to Ralph. Thank you, and to all of those who made this possible. This is a truly public-private community project. So thank you, all the residents of Balboa Island who really made this possible. And we'll do a countdown. All right, why don't we count down from 10? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Can you make it to that spot next to it? Perfect. Can you make it to the place I put the tarp? I'll meet you there.